Welcome back. You're still watching World Insight. I'm Tian Wei. Just one digital coin, specifically Bitcoin, is currently worth nearly 9,000 US dollars, which has many people around the world eager to invest in cryptocurrency. Born from blockchain, cryptocurrency is becoming more mainstream. China's central bank ramped up its focus on cryptocurrency this year, preparing to launch its own digital currency. Despite some volatility and security concerns, many believe that it creates innovative solutions for capital markets. How will it revolutionize the financial playing field in China and beyond? In London, we invited Patrick McCorry, the founder and CEO of PISA Research, which is a grant funded by a bunch of blockchain companies. He's also the UK's first PhD graduate in cryptocurrencies. Welcome back to our program, Patrick. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
I remember our last debate was about cryptocurrency or not, whether it's going to work.
Yeah, and Libra as well.
Yes, and we've seen some latest development. Now, your reaction, first of all, to China's earlier decision to jump into the sea of blockchain?
I think there's two reactions. So first, I was just really excited that, the Chinese government are taking this seriously. But they've been taking it seriously for a very long time. So I know the Chinese central bank have a dedicated team to cryptocurrency and blockchain, and they've been researching this now for about 5 to 6 years. So this announcement is sort of the pinnacle of a long, bunch, I want to say a good couple of years of work on behalf of the Chinese. I think the second part was, while they're really excited for blockchain, what I'm worried about is that I think they should be more excited for cryptocurrencies than blockchain, but we can talk about that.
What do you mean by more excited for cryptocurrency rather than blockchain?
Well, going back to 2015, so from 2013 to 2014, the Bitcoin price went up. And then in 2015, this led to the rise of blockchain, but blockchain, not Bitcoin. And a lot of the initiatives there were by like R3, Hyperledger, large banks, large organizations. And none of those solutions ever went anywhere because those big players just couldn't coordinate, which is actually the only problem cryptocurrencies really solve is coordination. So my worry there is that I hope the Chinese, if they're, the Chinese government, if they pursue blockchain, maybe they have a better chance of making the large institutions cooperate. But so far, that's been very difficult to do for the past 4 to 5 years.
What do you make of the case study of China so far? The central bank digital currency, as the central bank has already claimed, experimenting for some time, 2 layers, a central bank layer and commercial banks at the same time. How does that work? Because it's not just one single blockchain. It's rather more complicated, 2 tiers. Do you think that could be the Chinese way? I don't know. As an outsider, maybe you can have more insight than me.
Well, in terms of financial institutions and blockchain, what makes them really exciting is the property of self-custody. So if I have digital tokens, digital coins, digital shares, I can verify myself that I'm the owner of those shares and I'm the only one authorized to spend them, and nobody else owns the shares, coins, or double spent them. So what's really exciting about the Chinese banks is that China has been a growing economy for the past 20 years, and now they're building out their financial infrastructure and their financial services. By actually putting the principle of self-custody at the heart of what they build, which will be these blockchains, that's actually really exciting, something that I guess the West would be very slow to do because they already have 40, 50-year-old systems that are a bit slow and need upgraded.
Now, Patrick, a lot have been talking about, what would that mean for the US dollar once, cryptocurrencies are developing on a wider scale, particularly given the fact that there is quite some geopolitics going on in our world today, unfortunately. So where do you think, the potential of cryptocurrency will be, or, things like the central bank digital currency that the Chinese central bank has been testing for some time. How does that work eventually? Is it going to transcend what we are seeing right now, the structure, financial structure, or is too much of a hope?
I think there's 2 parts to this. So I think by using the blockchain, they represent a state currency. I don't think that's going to add any more value to the currency itself. Value, real world value of buying and selling currencies comes from the market and liquidity. How much can I trade these currency for at a given price? I think what they will do is that what blockchains are really going to help with, certainly with the Chinese banks, is being able to defend property right. I actually have the power to verify that I own this token, this coin, and I can actually defend my right to that property. Where traditionally in the financial services, we can't do that. So it's a really good example, I think it was from 10 years ago, called the Dole Food Company in the US. They issued 36 million shares, and one day it was realized 50 million people had claims of those shares. And that meant some of the shares were double spent. One share belonged to two different people, and how do you reconcile that?
Right.
Where when you build out blockchain and the idea of self-custody, it just solves those problems from the onset.
Right.
So it makes a much more traceable, auditable, verifiable system that hopefully the Chinese can build out and adopt and push forward.
Of course, those are being claimed as the characteristics of blockchains. Having said that, though, people have been talking about too much debt by the United States as a result of its currency, the US dollar, being the currency of the world in a way. On the other hand, there has been very slow improvement in the so-called lack of efficiency of SWIFT and the CHIPS systems that have been used worldwide. So will the rise of cryptocurrency, at least the development into the next stage of blockchain, be able to challenge that? To what degree? To efficient that or to replace that?
Awesome.
Patrick, your insight.
So the Bitcoin argument is that it's more like a store of value like gold. And as we all know, gold doesn't really challenge the US dollar or the Chinese yuan. Gold is another asset where as an investor, I can keep my, my wealth safe. I buy gold knowing that gold is deflationary and I don't lose value every year. And Bitcoin sort of represents that same idea, right? Buy Bitcoin, hopefully Bitcoin keeps going up and I actually protect my savings and my wealth. The difference between Bitcoin and gold, what makes Bitcoin really exciting, is again that self-custody property. If I own gold, what I really own is an entry in a database by whoever controls the gold, or the broker. Where with Bitcoin, I can verify myself I actually own that coin and that value, and only I can trade it. So I don't think it challenges national government currencies whatsoever. Where for Ethereum is more like a playground at the moment. It's more like a massive experiment where they're really building out a publicly verifiable, auditable financial system. I can lock in coins, I can do loans, I can lend. Actually, one good example there is that I can lock in ETH, print DAI, which is a stable coin, and give that out to people. So it's more like a playing ground for these financial systems that will hopefully evolve over the next 20, 30 years.
Patrick, it seems that you're trying to suggest it's going to be a parallel system. One is, the sovereign, currencies. On the other hand, there's also parallel system of cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is only one of those examples. Is that what you're trying to suggest?
I don't want to say parallel, but it is technically a parallel system. So the only reason these systems even exist is just because of coordination. It's very easy for, every Bitcoin and Ethereum are built in such a way where it's really easy to coordinate and maintain the system. Anyone in the world can buy a proof of work miner and contribute towards supporting Bitcoin.
Sure.
Where ideally this should actually be run by, banks, large institutions, governments, but it's so hard to get them to coordinate on a global scale, which is why these systems have sort of evolved and existed.
On the other hand, we see generational changes, right? I mean, earlier generations, of course, they would love to have the banknote, the paper money in their hands. And now we have seen electronic money and the payment system, for example, that's so popular here in China with Tencent and Baidu Pay, and also you have the Apple Pay, things like that. But the next generation, of course, it could be cryptocurrency. Now, the cryptocurrency is already widely accepted for example, those who love computer games. Some of them just use cryptocurrency to trade with ever having the bigger hand. So it's already widely used in those communities. While those community numbers are increasing, are we going to see a dramatic change as to what kinds of currencies will be dominating the world, whether it's cryptocurrency or the common currency as we know today? The way people's lives changes.
I think there's two parts to that. So I went to China recently. I visited Zhuhai. It was an amazing place, and I enjoyed it. And I got to experience WeChat for the first time. And WeChat has it actually has a very good user experience. I went to the local shop. I scanned the QR barcode, and I was able to spend coins using WeChat. I think those type of custodial systems, where I put my money in WeChat and WeChat have authority over it, I don't think they're going to go away. They have a very good user experience. They're very easy for people to use. If I want to go buy something, I don't want to use a cryptocurrency for that. I really just want to send money to the merchant, and I mostly trust that interaction. Cryptocurrencies, on the other hand, what's the best way to describe it? They're more like money for the internet. That's sort of the tagline they had for the past 10 years. They're not very good for in-person use. So in Bitcoin, for example, if I want to pay for something in a shop, I send Bitcoin over, I wait 10 minutes for a confirmation, and then I can eventually leave. And that's a terrible user experience. But what's good about these cryptocurrencies for the internet is that actually you can use them in such a way where I can visit any website on the internet. I could deposit coins into that website while still maintaining self-custody. I can use their services on whatever, gaming, for example. I can play their game. I can whatever other, gambling or whatever other service you do on the internet. But I still maintain custody, and I just pay them little bits as I go. And that's sort of been the dream for this, e-cash that's been envisioned for the past 30 years. Bitcoin was the first way we could achieve that.
So
going
Patrick,
forward, there's no reason why national governments or national coins, like the Chinese digital currency they want to release, they could also use that role as well. There's no reason why I can't go on I think it's a 10-cent game, I forget what it's called. It's like a mobile game. There's no reason why I can't deposit my coins into that website using a national currency.
So you do not subscribe to the camp who argues that the cryptocurrency could undermine or challenge the existing currency system that we have in our world today, even though many have been saying it is a really big opportunity there.
To challenge them? I don't think so at all. I think they're just complementary. I mean, Bitcoin's been alive now for 10 years, and no nation state has ever really seen Bitcoin as a threat, or not a threat enough to do anything about it. Other ones, I guess, like Libra, could be a bit more of a threat, because Libra has the potential to distribute to over 2 billion users and not be pegged to any national currency. So there are probably bigger threats, but actual cryptocurrencies themselves, I see, one, they're just complementary to the existing system, and two, they're now acting as a playing field for these large institutions to see how well this can actually work.
What about the next stage of this? Now, if China with 1.4 billion people coming in, this would provide quite an interesting scale of experiment about the potential. So, Patrick, with scale, what can be done about the potential of blockchain?
I think what's really exciting about the having blockchain in China, for example. So before I get into that, actually, so why is blockchain really exciting? What's really exciting about the blockchain is that all the blockchain is a cryptographic data trail. So given a database, I can verify why you have that database and why that database is correct. So in China, it's actually going to be able to constrain authority and allow citizens to verify why their data is stored the way it is. So, if I have my data stored with, I don't know, I'm not too familiar with Chinese institutions, but if I have data stored with an institution anyway, I'll be able to I can verify myself why my data is stored the way it is. So I can actually constrain the power of that authority to verify that. So for anything that has a digital application, that's actually really powerful, and that's great for the Chinese citizens to have. They can actually build trust in their institutions because they can verify what their institutions are doing. And that'll be a grand, amazing experiment to have.
And the scale now.
Yeah, the scale of 1.2 billion people being able to do that in real time. That's sort of what's going to happen over the 21st century. I guess another way to look at it is that the experiments we do on Ethereum today, that's very small scale. Ethereum's only worth $200 billion. It only has around 700,000 transactions a day. Taking something like that on the grand Chinese scale, 1.2 billion users, is going to be mind-blowing. I mean, it's actually very hard to predict how well it's going to work, but it's definitely very exciting.
As the first PhD of cryptocurrency and certainly research about the blockchain, been thinking about what could be the potential, how dazzling, but at the same time damaging in the process it could be to the current belief systems, governance systems, and probably bring chaos, but at the same time, potential. Have you been thinking about that process?
I guess it's sort of hard to predict, isn't it? I mean, historically speaking with eCash, so eCash originated in the 90s and the 2000s. None of the banks took it seriously. They, why would you bother with keys or, coins when you can just issue credit cards? In the 2010, that's where Bitcoin evolved, and then blockchain came after that. And it's been a quiet, it's not been like a violent or chaotic rise of these cryptocurrencies or blockchain. It's actually been quite peaceful and useful, and people can actually, there's a tangible thing there people can play with and understand why it works and why it's great. One of the reasons why banks got so interested in this because they looked at something like Bitcoin and thought, why can they transfer money across the world in 10 minutes and we can't do that? And now they're actually realizing that they can do it by implementing these systems. So going forward from that, I think what we're really going to see is maybe more chaos in the financial services. There is going to be this alternative financial system that's not really controlled by any single actor. And that's actually good and bad. What's good about that is that it can weaken economic warfare. The trade wars would be much harder to do in a system where one person doesn't control the financial system. That's actually a benefit of these systems, which hopefully will evolve eventually. But I think it's just very tangible when you look at the system. You can see all the benefits. I don't see why it would be chaotic because it just makes everything much more streamlined, verifiable, auditable, and traceable.
Okay. Well, those are certainly, once again, the characteristics of blockchain, as they say. Whether it is likely to come true eventually, we'll see how time will test it. Thank you so much, Patrick McCorry. The UK is the first PhD graduate in cryptocurrency, believe it or not. Thank you so much, Patrick. And that is all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more, try to find us World Insight CGTN into your search engine or check out our YouTube channel. Also follow us on Twitter, Facebook. From me, Tian Wei, and everyone on the World Insight team, thanks for watching and tune in again next time for more insights across China and around the world. Good night.